First of all, thanks for being here. We've had an exciting start to our season so far. It's just really been fun to see and get a lot of production out of some of our young players that we have that are really contributing a lot to our team right now. It's tough. We've been on the road for 4 weeks and haven't had many days of practice outside here in Lawrence. So looking forward to going to Texas this weekend and opening conference play with Baylor.
You mentioned the young players. Got a few in the circle, you got quite a few in the field. How encouraging has it been to see that so early in their careers?
I think it's been really exciting to see the upside of Kennedy Diggs and Kaylee Washington in the pitching circle for us. I think they bring a lot to the table, really give us some depth with our pitching staff. And, that's really where pitching is now for us is like, I wouldn't say we necessarily have a number one right now, but, being able to get a lot of really good different looks from especially adding our young players in there has been significant. And along with Olivia Bruno really stepping up for us in the circle this year as well.
You guys have played teams like Oklahoma and Clemson that are all top 25 teams in your tournaments. As you head to conference play, what did you kind of take away from those games, those tournaments?
Well, I think that first weekend opening up down in Florida was huge for us, but it's tough when you go down there and play the Southern schools that have been outside practicing a lot. So that first weekend was a little bit more about us, just trying to kind of learn more about our players and our team dynamics and who was going to step up to the plate for us. So facing Clemson early on was a good challenge for us. I mean, we were in that game, we had a chance to potentially win that. But then, 3 weeks later, we go down and play OU, and I thought we competed well against them. They're just tough, when you give up a couple back-to-back home runs and kind of takes the wind out of your sails. But anytime you play a team like OU, they're always going to make you better. So I love that we faced them heading into this week prior to conference because we're seeing really high-level pitching, high-level offensive, at-bats. And so I thought it was good not only for our defense but also for our pitching staff and for our hitters.
With some of the issues you all had in close games in that first weekend, how gratifying was it to finish off a couple of those the last few weekends?
I think it was significant. It's unfortunate. I go back and I look at that first weekend because we were 1-4 and we could have easily probably been 5-0. I mean, we were in every single game, lost 3 of those games by 1 run to some really quality opponents. But I think that also, even though it was painful for our team right out of the gate to not get those wins, I thought it was really good for our players to understand that we were not far off. So I thought these last couple of weeks, we had some close games that we're finally figuring out how to win, especially against like Marshall last weekend down in Oklahoma. We run-rolled them game 1. And then the second time we faced them, they're going to come out with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I thought we responded really well. It was a tough game. It was a close game for us. We went 8 innings, and, the biggest thing is we found a way to win that one.
The sweep you got against Baylor last year was a big moment in that season. What are your impressions of this year's Baylor team and your thoughts on this upcoming series?
Well, I think we have a lot of confidence going against Baylor. They're always going to be good and they're really well coached. Going and playing at their turf is always going to be a challenge. They draw well, but I think the biggest thing right now is our team's playing with a lot of confidence and having, gotten that sweep last year here at home against them was really helpful for us. And I think now it's now my team is starting to believe like, hey, we're pretty darn good. So, I think it's a good opening for us in the Big 12. Good challenging opponent. I think we match up really well with them, and I think we got a good chance to go down there and take care of business.
You talked about being on the road so much to start the season. How does that affect the team?
Well, it's a grind. I mean, I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to get on a plane or get on a bus and get back on the road and get back here late on Sunday night. We usually have Mondays off, and unfortunately, because of weather, even out in California, we had to change our schedule to come back on a Monday. So that gave us basically 1 day before we turned around and went down to Texas State. And, the weather here in Kansas hasn't been very cooperative. So, we haven't had a lot of days outside to practice. And so we've had to really just try to take advantage and stay focused on what we can do in the indoors right now. Primarily focusing on hitting and pitching when we're in the inside. But, you know, we'll get down to Baylor tomorrow and be able to practice outside before we play them again on Friday. So, you know, I just keep telling my players is we got to focus on what we can control, not what we can't. So, you know, it's challenging, but I think mentally and physically we're handling it pretty well.
With you being on the road and conference realignment making you travel further and further away in conference, what kind of impact does that have for your weekly schedule?
You know, the midweeks are tough because unfortunately, we go this first month without even being able to get any midweeks in, just simply because of weather. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us, you know, getting on a plane, going to Utah, coming back, having a midweek, and then turn around and being at home that week. But I mean, I'm excited about the conference. I think our conference is really solid, really strong. It's going to be fun to be able to go to some new places like Utah. We don't go to BYU this year, and we don't go to Houston, but we have Arizona here who's playing extremely well. We get to go play at ASU, which I think will be a really good matchup for us as well. And then obviously we got Texas Tech here and OSU here. So, but it's, you know, it's going to be an exciting time. I think my players are feeling a lot of confidence right now and really excited to just get conference play going.
Anything else?
With the weekends being the way they were, we've got multiple games over multiple days. Are you starting to see your roster solidify? Are they starting to step up as to who's going to be your core that are playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of moving parts, and I've been talking about that with my team from day one. I mean, our freshman class is really, really solid. We're returning, you know, 3 juniors that didn't play a lot for us last year, but were also very, very talented. Again, I think right now we have a pretty good idea what our foundation is, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of moving parts with the offensive pieces. When players get hot, you got to take advantage of that. And I think the biggest thing that this team really has to offer is we're really, really solid defensively. This is probably the first time I feel like we're 2 or 3 deep in almost every single position, which is extremely helpful from an offensive standpoint. When players get hot, you can make those changes on defense and not feel like you're missing a lot. So that's really been fun. I think we've got a lot of really young, talented players that we got some speed and some young kids that are able to come in and give us some of that. But we have a lot of different looks to throw at people, especially when it comes to what the offensive pieces will need.
Good. Great. Thanks, y'all.